Dana White just handed Paddy Pimblett an interim title shot that should have gone to Arman Tsarukyan, and the only question left is how this single decision just detonated the entire lightweight division.
Obviously, you just saw Gaethje versus Paddy Pimblett for the interim title. Earlier, Topuria posted, I'm dealing with some personal problems, so I'm not gonna fight the first quarter. So the winner of Gaethje versus Paddy will be the interim title, and then they will face Topuria.
But stay locked in, because in 30 seconds I'm dropping a reveal about Paramount's secret plan that turns this whole story upside down.
First ever time I'm going to fought in January, the earliest I've ever fought. It's going to ruin my Christmas dinner and my birthday, because I'm 31 like 3 weeks before it. But it's all going to be worth it when I lift that real title above my head, and Paddy the Baddy is a world champion, and 2026 is going to be the biggest year of my life. I am coming for that interim title. Then I'll be making it the undisputed title when I come and beat Ilia Topuria up and take the undisputed title. And then little posh boy, if he manages to fight in that time, because he likes sitting out and saying he's got a sore back, if little posh boy fights in that time and keeps his ranking, I'll punch his head in as well.
Dana White announces Justin Gaethje versus Paddy Pimblett for the interim title at UFC 324, and the backlash hits instantly. A nuclear-level left hook as fans rage and analysts torch the UFC for benching the rightful #1 contender yet again.
#1 contender at 155 pounds is a guy named Arman Tsarukyan, and he's not involved in this fight. This is a makeshift fight. This is as prestigious as a BMF title. God bless. I said I wanted to see Paddy fight for the belt. God bless. But this is a bogus fight, and it's insane to me that it is headlining over Kayla Harrison versus Amanda Nunes. On paper, Paddy versus Justin is a fine fight to determine the #1 contender to fight Ilia and or Arman. Ilia won that belt back in June. I don't even think you need an interim title fight. Honestly, it should have been the co-main event, 5-round #1 contender fight, Ilia versus Arman, second half of the year. What's the problem with that? And now what you just said, because he reiterated this in the Instagram Live, the winner of this fight is going to fight Ilia. What happens to Arman? Arman's going to have to fight who? What is going on? What does Arman Tsarukyan have to do to get a shot at the belt now?
Arman Tsarukyan fires back in real time with a sharp make. It makes sense. The MMA world melts down around him, and Paddy Pimblett smiles like he's already wearing the belt as he maps out his 2026 takeover, including an interim title, a Topuria beatdown, and a showdown with Arman, assuming Arman ever gets the green light to fight. And don't blink, because in the next segment, I'm dropping the exact Ariel Helwani quote that sent UFC Twitter into full meltdown mode.
Sue the guy. He sat patiently. He went out there. He steamrolled right through Dan Hooker. He did exactly what he had to do. He did what Khamzat and Islam did not do. He finished his opponent on the ground in dominant, impressive fashion. And now what is he? Now he's just floating in the wind. And he's not even next, apparently. Now, of course, everything can change. Nothing really means anything. They make up the rules as they go along. But to put Justin and Paddy in the interim title slot, and then have the winner of that fight Ilia is insane to me. And worse than that, because we have seen interim title fights that have felt a little fugazi. I cannot believe that they are headlining this card with that fight.
Ariel Helwani obliterates the matchmaking, calling Gaethje versus Paddy a makeshift belt fight, basically a BMF cosplay, and says it's absurd considering Ilia Topuria reclaimed the real title weeks ago.
You are going to hollow out your product doing shit like this long enough. It's not just that you're not meeting expectations. You're just not. The fight business has always been one of manipulation. The fight business has always been one of the promoters massaging stuff to get what they want. It's a part and parcel of what they do. This is hardly some new practice, right? But it feels like there are moments in time where you can't really f around with that. And that's kind of what we're getting here. We're getting a lot of that. We're getting fights where there's obvious ways to go a different direction and they just don't go that direction, clearly because they've got some other aim in terms of how they want to generate revenue. They're just extracting wealth out of the bout rather than matchmaking for a real clear sense of who's the best.
He demands answers, asking what Arman Tsarukyan has to do after dismantling Dan Hooker, recovering from injury, and still getting tossed into contender limbo while others leapfrog him without blinking.
Ilia is going through a divorce right now, so of course that's a tough time for anybody, and it is very, very distracting. You can't focus on a fight in the training camp, certainly an opponent, when you're going through a divorce. So certainly not going to talk about that any more than what I have done there. Ilia, we wish you nothing but the best.
Helwani keeps firing, calling the interim booking insane and questioning how this fight even headlined the card, accusing the UFC of throwing blindfolded haymakers at the rankings.
Ilia has expressed interest about moving up and maybe trying to face Makhachev. How realistic is this scenario, do you think? Does it leave Tsarukyan in limbo at lightweight?
Stupid. He's not moving up. Like, come on. There's too many horses in the stable at 170.
I'm moving up.
Yeah.
Is he trying to run from Arman?
I do.
Is Ilia running from Arman?
I do think so.
Oh,
okay. That's
I do think so.
legit.
Hello.
But with that said, I think that Ilia Topuria.
Who wouldn't want to run from Arman? Have you seen him before?
I'm running from him currently. I don't even know the guy I'm running from.
I do think Ilia Topuria is the highest skilled fighter in the UFC right now, but I do think he is threatened by Arman. Arman's big, he's strong, he's great at the weight class, his boxing is clean, great grappling. It's a tough fight for him to where he can go to 70s. Maybe he doesn't get the win. It doesn't make sense to me. The only fight for Ilia Topuria right now is Arman.
3 minutes from now, I'll reveal the industry truth behind why Arman keeps getting skipped, and trust me, it is darker than anything you're expecting.
Well, first off, my hat goes off to Ilia for doing that, because a lot of fighters would be like, no, I'm going to hold on to it and make everybody wait. So my hat's off to him for pulling that, the Khalil, not Khalil, but the Jamal Hill and the Yuri Prohashka, right? Like saying,
Right.
you know, I'm going to sit back and I'm going to let these other guys fight for it and let them shake things out the way it needs to shake out. So even though he's not relinquishing the belt, he is letting somebody fight for the interim belt. So my hat's off to him for doing that. And when you have personal problems, you're not going to be able to fight well, and he understands that. So hats off to him for also recognizing that and not just trying to push through, because typically we'd be like, oh man, he should be fighting anyway. But the fact that he's recognizing that he's not going to be able to give us his best work and he needs to sit out for a while, hopefully things get better for him, and I'm wishing him all the luck and success in getting those things behind him so he can come back and fight.
Eric Jackman steps in and blasts the fight, calling it one of the most meaningless interim title bouts since Gain versus Lewis. Made even worse because Arman is easily ahead of both fighters by a country mile.
Well, I know someone who's not happy, and I'm sure that's Arman Tsarukyan, right? I'm sure he believes he deserves to be in this fight, and he was saying even after the win, like, didn't take any damage. If they want me to fight in January, that's when he's being asked about Ilia, but I'm sure if they called him to fight either of these guys for an interim belt, he would have done it.
You know, and it's unfortunate too, because we put this burden on these fighters, but it says a lot though. It says a lot about the direction that Paramount wants to go with the UFC, really. It says that, listen, we want guys that are going to bang. And it's an unfair burden that we put on fighters to say, we want you to win, be successful and win it. And you also have to entertain us by putting your neck on the line and taking a lot of chances and taking damage in the process. Because when you got guys like Justin Gaethje, that's what they do, but they're fan favorites. A guy like Arman Tsarukyan might not be a fan favorite because he's so grappling oriented.
Luke Thomas backs the criticism, accusing the UFC of weakening the product by prioritizing spectacle over sport and pushing entertainment, while real contenders sit in the shadows.
So it's kind of telling of where the direction of where they want the UFC to go, because they're trying to get eyeballs, man. Without eyeballs, the sport goes nowhere. So for Arman Tsarukyan, he might have to sit out for a little bit, but you know, he definitely deserves it, and his time is coming. It's just, I think right now, Paramount and the UFC is kind of establishing that, you know, we're going to want some entertainers in there. And if you're not entertaining us, if entertainment is not a part of your priority, then that might be an issue.
Justin Gaethje, meanwhile, is buzzing, saying he's honored to kick off the UFC in Paramount Plus era and promising to deliver another all-out war to cement his legacy as one of the sport's deadliest entertainers. But every shockwave traces back to one moment, Ilia Topuria's bombshell announcement that he is not fighting in January.
But this is a very, very tough competitive matchup. Now, Justin Gaethje is no spring chicken. I think he's 36 years old. But you know what you're going to get with Justin Gaethje. Yes, of course, against Max Holloway at UFC 300. He got knocked out. He got embarrassed. He got face planted. I tell you what, it was a shocking scene, okay? But that's not normally what happens with Justin Gaethje. He is one of the most exciting fighters. They do call him the human highlight reel for a reason. He's got great wrestling, but the boxing, the striking, the leg kicks, the punch power that he has, I'm telling you, this man is no joke. And neither is Paddy Pimblett, right? We saw last time against Michael Chandler, he is the real deal. He absolutely smoked him. He's undefeated in the UFC, put a beating on Michael Chandler.
Ilia reveals he is going through a divorce, hasn't seen his daughter, and needs to repair his life before defending the belt, insisting he won't hold up the division and trusts the UFC to keep moving while he rebuilds.
And for Justin Gaethje, this is the final go. This is the final crack of the whip. The man's had 2 title fights in the past, Charles Oliveira to Khabib Nurmagomedov, and now he gets to go up against Paddy Pimblett. Now, talking about the matchup, of course, it is an easier fight for Justin than what it is against Khabib Nurmagomedov, one of the greatest of all time. Islam Makhachev, the current pound for pound, and according to many people, a man that is surpassing Khabib Nurmagomedov, right? So in that regard, it is an easier matchup. Will Paddy be able to take him down? Will he dance around the octagon? Yes, he will. Will he try and replicate the game plan of Max Holloway? Of course he will. Who wouldn't try and do that? You aren't going to stand and go toe-to-toe with Justin Gaethje because the man does have knockout power. But underestimate Paddy at your peril. That's all I'll say about that one, but that is a phenomenal fight.
Max Holloway shows massive respect, saying he knows the pain of fighting while trying to protect your kids, offering nothing but support.
I reckon Pimblett's beating him. Mixing up the grappling and the striking, staying at range, not being in the pocket with him like a Chandler would be, like a Fiziev would be. I reckon Pimblett's going to beat him. Gaethje coming towards the tail end of his career. I just want to mention now, Arman Tsarukyan is... this is tough for Arman. Okay, he's probably going to have to fight someone else. He said he would be on this card. I don't know if they then called him and he said, no, I can't be on that card, and that's why they've done this. If that's what comes out from this, I guess it could be a bit more understandable, because otherwise it would have been Nunes Harrison to main event, and we just can't have that.
Ilia responds with gratitude, while Michael Bisping acknowledges the emotional toll of a divorce and wishes him the strength to heal before returning to defend what he earned.
This is insane. Gaethje versus Pimblett is an absolutely insane fight. I'm looking forward to it. This is a massive, massive matchup. Ton of hype on the line, but I do want to mention, Pimblett has floated up to number 5 in the rankings. Magically. Scouse magic, dude. Scouse magic. Don't ask for that on a street corner in Liverpool, by the way, but this is some Scouse magic. Okay? He just levitated his way into an interim title shot, which is insane, but fair enough. As an Englishman, I'm all on board with this. But, you know, it is what it is. I think he'll beat Gaethje, but let it be known, Gaethje said, I'm not fighting ever again, and I'll retire if you don't give me a title shot. And they fucking bent the knee. They bent the knee to Justin Gaethje.
But TJ Dillashaw pours gasoline on the fire, hinting that Ilia might also be dodging Arman, saying Arman's size, boxing, and grappling pose real danger, and suggesting this personal break might also be a strategic retreat. Dane Thomas pushes back, praising Ilia for not holding the entire belt hostage and letting the division move forward when many fighters would have frozen the rankings. He says Ilia knew he wouldn't be mentally locked in and made the mature call, but then he shifts into a hard truth about the Paramount era entertainment is now king. He warns that grapplers like Arman Tsarukyan might keep getting skipped behind fan favorites like Gaethje and Pimblett because Paramount wants fireworks, not wrestling clinics, even though Arman would sign the interim fight instantly. Adam Catterall echoes the sentiment, saying Arman should have been in the interim fight, but was likely skipped because he once withdrew on short notice and doesn't have the star power Paramount wants for their flashy debut. He says business has officially overtaken sporting meritocracy. Michael Bisping breaks down the matchup itself, calling Gaethje versus Paddy surprisingly competitive and praising Gaethje's power, leg kicks, and wrestling, reminding everyone his KO loss to Holloway was a rare anomaly. He highlights Paddy Pimblett's undefeated UFC run and explosive win over Michael Chandler, calling him a serious threat and saying this fight is Gaethje's final massive opportunity. He predicts Paddy will use movement and avoid Gaethje's kill zone, but warns that Pimblett has a habit of stunning people when the lights are brightest. MMA Guru dives in with a wild prediction, claiming Paddy Pimblett will beat Justin Gaethje with sharp grappling and disciplined distance striking as Gaethje's mileage finally catches up. Guru sympathizes with Arman, saying this matchmaking chaos leaves him stranded and probably explains why he was quietly skipped. He calls Gaethje versus Pimblett absolutely insane, jokes that Paddy teleporting to number 5 in the rankings is pure Scouse magic, and reminds everyone the UFC ultimately bent the knee to Gaethje's ultimatum. Give me a title shot or I walk. They bent the knee to Justin Gaethje. That's all for today's breakdown, fight fans. Drop your thoughts on this chaos-filled card in the comments, and if you want more explosive UFC news, high-voltage analysis, and drama-loaded breakdowns, hit like, subscribe, and smash the bell. We never slow down, and neither does the fight game.